Hey everyone, you're here with Mark on Perfect Gardens TV. So, just got another great question. Will tissue culture be a solution to get a cut out of the sickly plant? And this is basically what he's asking. And yes, 100%. And believe it or not, tissue culture is actually a lot simpler than you might think. So obviously there are going to be some plant-borne diseases. Like if you get a disease from an aphid that's a vector disease and it actually infects the plant. Okay. And you're not going to know. Like a lot of people live very healthy lives, even with diseases, right? So you got to take that with a grain of salt as well. But plants that have been infected and the disease is actually in the plant itself, right? You're not dealing with a surface disease. In that situation, if you got a tissue culture, the disease would carry forward. But in a lot of situations, tissue culture is a great way to restart your genetics. And what's really interesting about tissue culture, if you were a larger operation and you were getting started and you wanted to save a huge amount of money, actually, from one plant, you could pull hundreds, if not potentially even up to thousands of clones off of one single plant. And it's dirt cheap, super inexpensive, and you're able to park it away in a very tight, confined place. And believe it or not, within about 2 months, if you did everything properly, you could have 1,000 to 10,000 to 50,000 6-inch clones ready to go into a major operation. And you have to think about that, right? Where literally 2 or 3 employees with 1 or 2 plants can produce, I don't want to call them clones, but this many petri dishes for clones. And so how do you do this? First, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get a piece of the plant, and it could be any part of the plant. You can use the stem, you can use the leaf, you can even use parts of the root. And then from there, you're going to sterilize it. Normally, people are going to use some mild hydrogen peroxide or they're going to use some mild bleach. They're going to dip it, then they're going to rinse it off with some sterile water. And then obviously, just so you're keeping in the back of your mind, you are doing this, you could treat the water with the drops of balance and it will only help provide more nutrients for the plant when it goes into the sterile dishes. So how big a piece? You don't need a large piece, just a little sliver. I mean, half of a dime size, right? You don't need a lot. Then you're going to go get, if I remember straight, they call it MS media. And just put MS tissue culture media right on Google. A whole bunch of different solutions will pop up. And that media has all the micronutrients and everything the plant's going to need. Then you're going to need some petri dishes because, again, once you create a sterile environment, you're going to want to sterilize everything, even the petri dishes. And then once you sterilize them, you close them and then you put them onto a rack. And the rack, it doesn't need any crazy light. It just needs like offset light. Like even T5 bulbs are going to be slightly too much. If you're going to use T5 bulbs, just use a couple. 1 or 2, not on every rack, depending on how you're doing, but I would probably use like the 24-watt T5 bulbs, if anything, or an LED strip, something along those lines. Put all the petri dishes in there, and you're going to start to see little nubs start to grow off of the tissue culture. And then within actually around 2 months, you're going to have a nice, healthy 6-inch clone. Literally, it is not hard. It's very inexpensive to do this, especially if you're a large scale operation and you're wanting to produce 5,000, 10,000 clones for the outdoor season, right? And you're going to want to do it as inexpensive as possible because, I mean, think about it, right? If you're a large outdoor grower and you're growing 10,000 plants, and you're trying to maybe get ahead of the season or something along those lines, right when you put an order in to the people that are cloning for you, you have to start thinking, how clean are those plants? Do they have any bugs? What are they using for those plants? I mean, there's a lot of trust you're putting into the person taking all those clones. And then most of the time, people that take all those clones are going to charge you anywhere between, depending upon the size, it could be $4.50 all the way up to $7, $8 a clone, maybe. Maybe $8 is pretty high, especially for that number. But seriously, it's a large investment, right? And if you feel comfortable literally mixing up a mild hydrogen peroxide or some mild bleach, dip the plant, spray it all down, up and down, and you feel comfortable just sterilizing some petri dishes, put up a metal rack and a couple very soft lights, Obviously, you're going to want to experiment a little bit probably before you invest all your time into this if you're doing an outdoor large growth situation. But just imagine, guys, I mean, you've now produced all of your plants. You've controlled the grow from literally the start versus outsourcing it to people that aren't going to care as much as you're going to care. And then with these now beautiful sterilized plants that you have grown from a tissue culture environment, you can now hand them off to your employees and they can begin to manage them for you, right? Just like a little baby. In the beginning, the parents are taking care of the babies because they care the most about them, especially in the beginning, the first few months. But as the baby learns to grow a little bit and the mother starts to produce milk that she can produce in excess, before I know it, the dad starts taking care of the baby when the mom maybe goes back to work and the husband isn't working that day or vice versa. And then before you know it, when they both need to go back to work, you hire a babysitter, right? And same thing with employees, right? Now the plants are strong and healthy. You hire a couple employees and teach them how to water, and lo and behold, your operation is booming. And you're not going to be dealing with bug issues, mold issues, the sickly clones. You're not going to be dealing with hermied out plants or bad genetics because they probably pop seeds and clone quickly off of them just to fill the order, which happens all the time. You know for a fact that you're going to have the exact genetics and quality from the start. So if you guys have never got into plant tissue, don't go buy a fancy brand. Literally just go get the MS Grow Media, get a couple Petri dishes, sterilize everything you're using, again with iron peroxide or the mild bleach, scissors, Petri dishes, the plant, rinse it all off because you don't want residue of that stuff in distilled water. You could treat that water with drops of balance. It will only benefit the plant as it's growing in the Petri dishes. Get a small little sliver and let it rip. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful on just getting your mind around tissue culture and removing some of the difficulty behind it. Have a great grow, guys.